Let's go.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another session with a fantastic guest this time around. There's a lot of people tuning in across LinkedIn right now, across YouTube and X. So we're just gonna wait for a bit. Everybody who's tuning in, it would be good, guys, if you can just say where you're tuning in from, which part of the world, whether that's you're currently in the US, somewhere in Europe, which part of Europe you're from, or outside of these two places, some maybe exotic place like South America or something. Feel free just to jot down where you're from, what is it that you do, and what you're currently doing today on LinkedIn. And if you are doing LinkedIn in terms of outreach in particular, what is it that you do, or maybe where are your struggles right now when it comes to all things LinkedIn outreach? So we're just gonna wait for another minute or two. We have over 900, maybe nearly 1,000 people coming live on the show across the different places. So it's going to be a good one. And then we're going to do a quick intro and we're going to dive deep into some of the tactics we want to be leveraging when it comes to all things LinkedIn. So just waiting for more folks to come in. So just a recap, guys, if you can just jot down where you're from, where you're tuning in from, what is it that you do, where you're currently doing LinkedIn outreach, and if you are doing LinkedIn outreach, what is it that you're doing, and in particular on the LinkedIn front, and any challenges that you may be having, so we can adjust, this session particular to your needs and to your questions. And then we're going to be taking a bunch of questions at the end, right? So yeah, so let's start off. So my name is Frank. I'm running this tiny little company called SalesForge. We essentially help companies with just sending a bunch of emails and a bunch of LinkedIn messages from a software standpoint, right? So you get good deliverability, and we specialize specifically with all things scaling. We typically say if you have at least 3,000 businesses, then we're the number one multi-channel platform out there to do multi-channel scaling. And that's all I'm going to say on my end because I'm just here helping to host out. So yeah, over to you, Yanis. Please do intro yourself. Yanis, can you hear us?
Thanks for joining the webinar that we're hosting today. So my name is Yanis. I'm the C. Yes. Hello?
Yanis, you have some connection issues. Maybe, Yanis, I think we had these issues a bit. If you can just do a quick intro, and then once we're going to get into the content mode, essentially, getting into the meat of it, if you can maybe switch off your camera, and I think that will be fine. I think something's not working out on the Wi-Fi front.
Yeah, thank you so much, Frank. I hope you can hear me now.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, maybe network is not the best at the moment, but yeah, my name is Yanis, so I'm the CEO of Outbound Pros. So, and today we're gonna talk about how to get the best. LinkedIn outreach for the last 4 or 5 years, and at the moment in our possession we have more than 200 accounts that we do outreach on a day-to-day basis. So yeah, we could. I think this is not going to be, uh, something flashy. These are going of our workbook in terms of LinkedIn outreach. So if you
Yeah.
have 15, 20 minutes to spare, please kind of look into it, because this is going to change your LinkedIn approach.
Yeah. Yanis, I think you will still have a hard time to hear you, but hopefully everything's good. Can everybody hear Yanis pretty well on your end? If somebody can't hear, just do raise your hand. Just put that in chat if you can hear Yanis really well. Just to recap, if somebody did not hear, he manages over 200 accounts right now on LinkedIn, which is a fair bit, right? So typically you just manage one account, right? Your own account, or sometimes you may have access to your other accounts, like your co-founder, etc. But yeah, so if you can hear Yanis, do feel free to jot down. If you cannot hear, also to do the same, just to kind of make sure that you can hear, guys. So yeah, that's it in terms of the intro. So let's dive maybe directly into the content, Yanis, that you have prepared for us, and let's review all the tactics you've got for us. And I'm going to be asking you a bunch of questions throughout. So guys, if you have any questions that you're going to see throughout the session, feel free again to put them down in the comments. And yeah, somebody says it's a little bit choppy on your end, Yanis. Yeah, let's see how things going to progress. Yeah, people just saying it's very choppy in terms of the internet. Do you mind? Do you mind going? Do you have hotspot that you can just turn on? Maybe.
I mean, it doesn't make a real difference, but I can try.
Yeah, I think it's fine right now. Let's just see how we progress.
Let me just disconnect. Okay, so I hope everyone can see the presentation. So yeah, top 1% LinkedIn outreach traffic. This is gonna be a speed run of. Yeah, this is not a regular webinar. We're not gonna sell you anything every 2 slides. So this is our workbook in terms of running outreach on LinkedIn. So let me just jump into all LinkedIn outreach held before award this LinkedIn.
Yanis, you
What I
definitely
mean by that is essentially.
Yanis, you definitely have a very choppy connection. Do you mind switching over to another connection that you have? Because nobody's gonna hear the good stuff that you have to say. It seems like it's an unfortunate day, something for this webinar.
One second.
Yes. Yanis gonna switch over to another Wi-Fi that he has or to his hotspot so we can continue. So apologies for this. Trust me, the content is pretty good. Had a look prior to us actually jumping on this.
So
yeah, maybe. Where's your mic? I think maybe
someone's
with the mic.
Maybe you can hear.
Yeah, is it too choppy, guys? Yanis, can you say something? Are you still on the line?
I'll switch. Yeah. So
I think you're way too choppy, Yanis. Let's yeah, I'm not sure what to do in this particular case, guys. It's an interesting moment in time, right? When the other party is not being able to tune in fully. Let's see if he's gonna get online. But so that we're not waiting here for Yanis, while he's sorting out his issues on his end. Let me kind of walk you through a bit about maybe our infrastructure setup in terms of kind of generally how we do things on our end, because that's something I wanted to leave at the end of from his presentation. But in terms of our setup, just for you, everybody, to give you an idea. So naturally, we do multi-channel outreach within our own software, but you can do that naturally in a bunch of other softwares. But currently, we have a definitely large-scale infrastructure setup in place where we've got we've got over 40 employees connected. So we have a company of over 40 employees right now within our business. And so you can connect naturally multiple profiles within Salesforce for you to actually scale up. And the reason why you need to scale sort of horizontally with a lot of different profiles is because you can only really connect to about 100 people on a weekly basis. So you probably have been connecting to a bunch of folks and you have seen that sort of pop up on LinkedIn where, hey, that's it, that's all you can be connecting with, right? So what we're doing right now, so Jan is going to go into a lot of strategies and sort of, tactics in terms of how to really see conversion essentially at scale. And but from an infrastructure standpoint, I could just explain that when you connect essentially multitude of LinkedIn profiles, let's say the co-founder profiles or the profiles of, let's say, your sales team or the marketing team or even engineering support, that allows you to increase a fair bit when it comes to the outreach, right? And then programmatically sort of connect that to a, let's say, particular sequence or a campaign, and then that would allow you to scale up, right? So this is kind of our setup just generally in terms of what we do, and we run essentially a lot of multiple different campaigns right now. So this is what Jan is going to go into, and so we're an example of that. So if you have any questions around specifically LinkedIn infrastructure piece or how to set up the profiles or what needs to happen on the profile front, do feel free to put the questions in the comments. Yanis, are you back with us? Can't hear you, Yanis. I think your mic disappeared now in full. So somebody's asking just on LinkedIn while we're waiting for Yanis to come back online. Yanis, we fully lost your mic right now. But somebody's asking, what is a good conversion rate you can expect from LinkedIn? Very good question. So on email, the reply rates are typically 1 to 5% when you're doing actually a good job. So there's multiple pillars when it comes to success on in email, on LinkedIn. One is the infrastructure piece. So you need to scale horizontally through multiple domains and email accounts. On LinkedIn is the same thing, through multiple profiles of your team typically. That's pillar one. Pillar two is the copy pillar, sending really the right copy. Pillar three is using the right software to actually scale and orchestrate. And pillar four is the leads. So what are the people that you're reaching out to? So on email, it's 1 to 5% when it comes to reply rates, generally seeing that. And 20% would be the benchmark. And the same benchmark, 20%, is on LinkedIn. So the 20% benchmark means how many people are positively responding back to you. So if at least 2 out of 10 responses that you're getting back on LinkedIn or email are positive, then you're doing actually a good job. And then on LinkedIn, so the total reply rate, so I'm getting to that. The reply rate on LinkedIn will be 10 to 30% if you're doing a good job. So a much higher reply rate on LinkedIn. So typically you would say it's a 5x reply rate versus email, which is why I invited Yanis to do the session here. But he is having issues in terms of the targeting. But to give an idea, maybe what we do, and I think this is one of the things he's covering, what we are doing in our team right now when it comes to the targeting is we have like over hundreds of competitors, right? There's so many tools out there, like when it comes to doing LinkedIn outreach and cold email outreach. And so we know that we have a really good solution with unlimited LinkedIn profiles that we can promote. So what we do is we then would extract, for example, LinkedIn company followers, which is one of the most sophisticated targeting options that exists out there. So it's typically like a top 5 targeting that you would do. And it's one of the things that, also a lot of agencies preach. So if you need to extract LinkedIn company followers, that's something you can do in one of our softwares called LeadsForge.ai. So in LeadsForge.ai, you can go and look at for example, your competitors. You can just type in the URL or the LinkedIn URL of your competitor, extract the followers, then you can look at specific geography, specific titles, and then you can target them, right? So if you have a significantly better sort of offer in terms of you have a better product, you have a cheaper product or faster product, right? So the typical angles, you should be hitting them, right? So yeah. Are you back with us?
Can you finally hear me?
Yes, I can finally hear you. Are you back?
Yeah, I am. So without a cam, but I'll make sure to go through the slides so we actually have something in the middle. But yeah, like I was saying, we'll do a speed run of this. So top 1% of LinkedIn outreach tactics. So my take is that about 95% of all LinkedIn outreach just fails before a single word is written. So this means that wrong list, wrong message, wrong ask, exactly in that order. So what actually drives reply rates? So essentially, in my opinion, about 40% of that equation is data and targeting, because you can take the same message, apply it to two different data sets, and you will get 2 different results. So the second most important part is the value prop quality, which is about 25% of the equation, then sequence structure, timing and signals, and at the very last, below 5%, is the copywriting, which usually is the other way around, and that's how people kind of structure it, but this is the real kind of equation and priority. So part 1, the list. So building a list is really a 3-step process. So you source, build, and filter exactly in that order. So there are but basically 4 or 5 ways how you can actually source your data. So custom scraping is first. This is basically, you would say, websites where your, let's say, clients hang out or they post about what they actually want to do. Basically, you can scrape, let's say, Clutch, for example, if you're targeting marketing agencies, that would be considered custom scraping. Then it's post and ad extraction, which is really important. This is a key tip from Frank. So essentially exporting an audience from your competitors' LinkedIn ads, so you can actually reach out to them afterwards. Then, in my opinion, the best balance comes with waterfall enrichment. This is the next step above Apollo, ZoomInfo, etc. These are all of these like standard databases, which means that waterfall enrichment is essentially a multitude of lead data providers that you put in your filters, and you get about 20 different providers battling essentially to give you the data for the best price possible. So step 2, building the list. In building the list is basically follower scraping, which has the highest leverage starting point. And basically there's a reason why you do competitor follower scraping. Is essentially that if you go in with a cold filter, you're basically inferring that they might care based on the job title, company size, possible ICP fit, etc. But with competitor followers, they've essentially opted in to follow that space. So let's say your Salesforce, you want to get some more clients, you will probably scrape some of your competitors like Smart Leads or Instantly, etc. Those prospects have already opted in, and they've essentially taught themselves about the whole infrastructure, the whole industry. Essentially, you don't have to start fresh and teach them about, hey, this is called email, this is called LinkedIn, etc. You should do this, and that. So it's already a easier sell. So like I said before, same message, different list. So with a cold sales now list, for example, with the same messaging, you could be getting about 3% reply rate. But if you apply it to a competitor follower list, it could be upwards of 11%. So it's a huge jump, and you're just changing one variable, which is the data. So 3 follower sources that always work. So number 1 is direct competitors. This is a no-brainer. Everyone, when you say follower scraping, this is the first thing that comes to mind. Second thing is complementary tools that your ICP uses, which is really important. So for example, let's say you have a GTM agency and you want some new clients. You could basically scrape followers from Salesforce because they essentially use the tool. They know what cold email is, and you can say, hey, we run this for a living, etc. This is how we work, and pitch them that way. And the third is industry media and communities your ICP follows. So again, kind of a no-brainer, but these are pretty important steps that most people kind of overlook. And if you want to really take it to the next level, essentially you can stack signals on top of it. So recent job changes, active hiring, funding announced, like that's the most cliche one, but it still kind of works. And the last and not least, they posted about the problem. So this week, I even had basically a situation where someone posted, hey, we're looking for a GTME. And I just reached out to them because I saw it's a signal and said, hey, would you consider an agency? And they said, yeah. So it definitely works. So every road needs to exist. And if you kind of cannot tell why this person needs to get your offer, that row should not even exist in your list. So for 500 messages to the wrong list is equals to 500 missed opportunities plus an audience that now ignores you. So part 2. So once you have your data set, the value prop comes next as per our equation. So you have the list, and now you just send them a generic opener. It will convert, but it's not going to convert as best as it can. So I'm a firm believer in relevance. I think personalization is kind of cringy, and it's not even necessary at this point. It actually has the reverse effect. So if you say, hey, hi name, I notice you work at XYZ, it's just not going to work. Their recent LinkedIn post sometimes works if it's in the right context, but again, it's getting overplayed. So relevance always works. You understand their specific situation, you demonstrate how you read their world specifically, and give them a reason to reply even if they're not buying. So this essentially will get you ignored. It says, hey, hi Sarah, I came across your profile, etc., etc. This is something you can send to a trillion different leads, and it's just the spray and pray method, which no longer in 2026 works. But this will get you replies. So you say, hey, hi Sarah, saw you expanding into enterprise sales at Acme. That's just an example. Most teams at that stage are still running manual follow-ups, and etc. So basically you're combining a signal specific outcome, proof that you've done this before, and at the end there's a low friction ask. So basically next thing you need to do is create a personalized value proposition. So this is where it kind of gets complicated, because personalized value propositions are really good if you actually have a decent formula on how to prompt it. So essentially this is my formula. So I take a piece of my end outcome and just put that into the email. To give you an example, let's say you're a website development agency and you want to reach out to someone and you say, hey, I saw your header, your footer, and your blog section has this and that wrong with it. And then in the next paragraph, you can say, this is what you should do with the header, this is what you should do with the footer, and this is what you should do with the blog post section. So essentially giving about 5% of what you would do basically a paid work, you're putting that into the email itself. So you're actually providing value upfront, and it's personalized to them specifically. So it just creates a reason to reply, even if they're not interested in buying, but it's just a good email. And this runs automatically on Clay, DataBar, etc. Whatever you want to use it, whatever you want to use, Claude Code even. But the prompt is really where your results are won or lost. The prompt is really important. I would suggest doing, let's say, 4 smaller prompts with 4 mini, for example, instead of going all out with 4 row, spending about 10 cents per row and not getting the desired outcome, because it's still going to hallucinate if you do not prompt it right. So now you have the right list, right message. Now you actually need to deliver it. So there we come to part 3, which is the sequence. So essentially, in my opinion, there are only 2 ways how you could do LinkedIn outreach. So number 1, my favorite is the pitch slap, which just is A to B and not A to Z, which means that you essentially mention the offer in the first LinkedIn message. But some people like the report building side of LinkedIn, where you essentially have a conversation with the prospect before and slowly but surely kind of say, hey, we can do XYZ. Takes more time. Frank had a previous webinar with someone who extrovert, I think it's called.
Yes.
So
exactly.
yeah, so essentially this is what they do. They kind of focus on low time situations. If your time is low, I would suggest go with the rapport building side, because you have to build relationships. But if your time is relatively big, pitch slap is the way to go. So 2 rules that apply to both. Always send an empty connection request first. Do not add anything in the note itself, and always end with a breakup message, so you have something to come back to if they ever have some need, because there's a kind of demand changes every quarter. So it's not it's not like they're saying, hey, we don't need this and it's not going to happen ever. It's a no for now. So the pitch slap, 4 steps: empty connection request, DM1, your personalized value prop, which we just talked about. So I like to build basically not only on email but also on LinkedIn. We build kind of the storytelling method. So you cannot include everything in the first DM. So you send the short to the first DM, but then you elaborate on the second DM, and then you do a third DM, which is a breakup. With the rapport building, there are more steps. I'm not an expert in rapport building. I just know it exists, but I like the pitch slap because that's how we operate. And multi-thread for every priority account, so 3 to 5 contacts per company. Tailor the value prop to each role, because a CFO will convert on something completely different than a CEO will. And run each contact independently. Never mention that you should reach out to, let's say, the CEO, CFO, etc. And
Why not?
overlap timing. So send to all of them at the same time, basically. What actually kills sequences is pitching in the connection request note, like I mentioned, saying, I came across your profile and was impressed. This is so like 2020, 2019. Long first messages also is a no-brainer. No one's gonna, invest about 5 minutes of their time just reading your message. We help companies go, this is what everyone says, and asking for a big ask, which is 30, 45, 60 minutes, is an absolute no-no. Now we've covered the first 3 parts of LinkedIn outreach. Now it's come to actually scaling it. Now you've proven that the messaging works, the data is correct, and your sequence is correct. Now you have to scale it. But one LinkedIn profile is essentially a ceiling and not a strategy. And you have only about 2, maybe Frank has the third option, but essentially you have 2 options of acquiring LinkedIn accounts. So you're either using your employee accounts or you're getting avatar accounts. With employee accounts, it's straightforward. You just ask someone for their consent and their login and just use them to do outreach. But if you actually want to scale it and not use employee accounts, or if you're a solopreneur, etc., you have to either purchase done accounts, which are always costly and have a lot of risk, or you can rent LinkedIn accounts through a multitude of providers. But if you want low volume, in my opinion, there's only one provider in the market, which is Mirror Profiles. Everything else is kind of on the scammy side. They're not going to have the support, etc. So Mirror Profiles is the way to go. And we also build custom LinkedIn accounts for our clients, but our limit starts from 15 accounts and then upwards. So with SalesForge, there's unlimited accounts and one interface. So essentially, if you wanted to scale LinkedIn outreach with other softwares, it's just super difficult and costly because everyone asks you to pay per seat, etc. But with LinkedIn and as per with email, you essentially need a warm-up period, which means that you can start with about 4 to 5 connection requests per day, and then just slowly add volume throughout the next 4 to 6 weeks. So you actually don't get your LinkedIn account suspended, banned, etc. So this is the account kind of health rules. So 4 to 6 week warm-up period on new accounts. So 20 connection requests, that's I think the maximum on avatar accounts that you can send. 40 to 45 per day is per season accounts, premium profiles, your personal accounts that you've had for a while. And if you're using avatar accounts, you need good proxies, and you cannot, I wouldn't suggest using shared proxies that these providers provide. I would suggest getting good residential proxies and logging in with those. And the first weeks you have to just watch acceptance rate. And if it's below 20%, you just have to improve the profiles, look, post some more, do some research, connect with profiles that are more likely to connect with you, essentially, in the first weeks. So systemized reply handling, this is really important. So positive replies, we all know that it pauses the sequence. Is a positive reply, you have to reply within 6 hours. 6 hours is actually generous. I would honestly say you need to reply within the first 20 to 40 minutes in order to actually book a positive reply into a meeting. Anything after that just drastically hurts the conversion rate. And if they say not right now, you just deploy a case study. If they're saying not interested, you can remove them from the sequence, but tag them in the CRM. Like I said, every 90 days demand changes, so there could be something going on in the background that you cannot know. You just reach out to them again in 90 days. If they don't reply, you either continue on LinkedIn until it stops and then move on to email or other channels. So the full stack that we use for LinkedIn outreach is LeadsForge for data. So we use follower scraping, lookalike targeting, etc. For personalized value prop creation, we use Clay, Databar, etc. And for execution, we use SalesForge. Because again, multi-channel plus multi-account, this is the best kind of tool in the game. So the numbers. This is what you should be looking at in terms of good LinkedIn outreach numbers. So 30 to 50% needs to be the connection acceptance rate. 5% is on reply rate. I mean, it's on the lower side. I think with LinkedIn, you should be anywhere from 12 to 20%. And a positive reply should be 2 to 5% in terms of all replies, and not just, not in terms of all replies, but all prospects. So 2 to 5% need to be the positive reply rate ratio. Usually people just rate it against the total reply rates, but I think this is, kind of a vanity metric. You need to look at how many leads you've uploaded. And at least 3% need to be booked in terms of all leads. So how to diagnose when it actually breaks? So below 20% acceptance rate, either your targeting is off or profile credibility, which we talked about on the avatar profile front. So below 5% reply rate, it's probably the messaging. You're getting accepted. People are interacting. They're accepting on that, and you're good to go. But no one's replying. That means that your messaging is off. And if you're not booking meetings, your CTA might be, too big of an ask. So this is kind of, if you're just starting out, these 3 rules, follow them and you'll kind of succeed. But if you want to go even deeper, what you can do is build a negative reply agent. So what it does on a monthly basis, it essentially analyzes all of the negative replies, and most people overlook negative replies, but those actually hold the truth about your campaigns and how it's actually working. So essentially, we essentially created 13 objection categories. So timing, budget, existing solution, etc. And we group each negative reply into one of these 13 categories. So let's say, for example, if ICP misalignment is above 30%, we need to stop and readjust the campaign in that category's direction. Or if it's called hostile replies, then obviously that means something else. We go back to the roots and adjust the campaign. So this is a really neat reply agent that you, if you're really serious about growing LinkedIn or email in general, this is a really neat tool to have. So yeah, find the step that loses momentum. That's exactly what I covered just now. And the best operators are not sending more messages. They're adjusting their campaigns and getting a better ROI from each message sent. And this is kind of my tips on someone who's starting out in terms of LinkedIn. So what to do on a Monday morning, just pull a competitor follower list on LeadsForge or any other solution. Layer at least one signal on top of it. Write a good PvP prompt for that specific segment and just launch it and see how it does after 14 days. And this whole playbook will definitely help you if you're running outreach manually and it's just not scaling, and you've tried automation and got burned with low quality output, and LinkedIn is a channel you want in your pipeline but just cannot crack consistently. So a quick offer from my end, if you're looking to actually start on LinkedIn or email, etc., if you connect with me today, tomorrow, I can build you a free GTM audit, essentially all the segments that you need to target, all the signals you need to look out for, all the email messages, LinkedIn messages, etc. So this is just a free offer. Send me a message, I'll build it out for you and point you kind of in the right direction.
Awesome. Thanks, Giannis. That was definitely a quick one. Guys, if we whizzed through, let's say, a lot of context here. One of the things definitely we want to make sure to cover is a bunch of questions, guys, that you have. Feel free again to jot them down below in the chat, whether you're on YouTube right now, whether you are on LinkedIn, etc. Whatever comes to mind. Giannis, maybe I have a question for you right now.
Sure.
One of the things that you haven't mentioned, but I do that all the time, is I do pull, let's say, my competitor list right now, right? And then, for example, the competitor list, either from the followers list or the, let's say, a post that another CEO, a competitor CEO has made, and it has like gazillions of reactions, or another one that I like is when somebody puts a lot of money on thought leadership ads, like, so it's a competitor, right, that boosts a post through thought leadership ad. It has like sometimes thousands of reactions. So I would extract and I would reach out. But I would ask you like a simple question in the first DM, like, hey, are you doing any cold emailing right now? Do you think that would work if I would just like on the WhatsApp or something like a similar, right? That's super short and snappy. I connect and just simply ask a question, and with that question, I'm trying to start conversations. Like, how do you look at that?
I'm a firm believer that every approach works,
Okay.
as long as you actually execute on it and believe in it. Because in my opinion, data is kind of the most important part. So if you actually do that step correctly, if you think asking them a question will work, it definitely will. So it's the same with as well with rapport building. You're just gonna attract a certain amount of your TAM by doing your own thing. So what I mean by that is every TAM has about, let's say, 10% of people that like direct approaches, like pitch slapping, lay it out in the first message. About another 10% will like for you to propose a question. Another 10% will like you to build rapport with them. So whatever you do, that's the target audience you're gonna attract.
Yeah. Gotcha. One of the things that you haven't mentioned, and I'm just curious about your thinking here. Are you a believer that you should be sending out, let's say, videos in LinkedIn DMs?
Not really.
Okay. Why
Because
not?
we've done this before. It's like it used to work about 3 to 4 years ago. People used to do these evergreen VSLs and just send them, even not mention your name, and just send them over on LinkedIn. Then came the era of Sandler, etc. All these video kind of platforms where you could embed their own website in the background or like a PDF, etc. It's like a trend in my opinion, because at that point it used to work, but it got oversaturated. And I think it's not really, channels do not get oversaturated, offers do. And if they see like 5 to 6 of these similar videos a day, it just has no meaning to it.
Gotcha. So let's say imagine I'm a sales team or you're working with a customer, doesn't matter, right? And so let's talk about the saturation point. So how do you think about saturation, right? Let's say I have a small TAM and sort of you want to sort of re-engage or reprocess, recycle the same TAM again. How do you think about kind of the saturation? Is it that you want to hit them with a different offer, or what would you advise there?
Depends on the channel, and depends on if we're using the same LinkedIn account that we used before for outreach, because the answer will change. So, for example, if you use the same account that you did before, I would say try to reignite the conversation. But if you're using different infrastructure, let's say on email or on LinkedIn with different accounts, I would send a different offer. So it just depends on the situation that you're in. If you're using your own personal kind of account, I would say just reignite the conversation if you sent a pitch before. So send, hey, we've done this, we've expanded into this. This might be relevant to you because of this. So again, relevance. So if they're posting about something that on your feed, and even though you've sent an offer to them before, I would still say, hey, we can do this XYZ, we've improved on this. So try to reignite the conversation, but just say, hey, we've improved.
Gotcha. Okay, so one of the things that you mentioned is, which has a major impact on the conversion rate, was the profiles themselves. So what would you be, maybe like 3 to 5 points as to what matters the most when it comes to building up a strong profile? For example, I always have this dilemma. I onboarded 2 interns, for example, this week, right? And they're nobodies essentially on LinkedIn, right? They literally have like 10, 20 connections, and right, you want to build up their initial profile and so they look good and whatever, they could actually connect with some prospects and do some work for us. But for you, if you have to like 3 to 5 points, what would those be to make sure you're actually drumming up a good conversion rate with your ICP?
Yeah, so headlines matter a lot. So with avatar profiles, that's the main part. So your headline on LinkedIn has to be not so salesy, but also has to create interest with the prospect to actually go to your profile and accept it. Number 2 is the banner, which is really important. If you have no banner or if it's blurry or low quality, people just not going to take you that serious. Profile pictures, again, is really important, but LinkedIn is kind of cracking down on AI pictures, so I wouldn't use that because you're going to get your account flagged. But also posting, writing a good bio, having skills, endorsements help. If you have anyone that's a pretty big person in the LinkedIn space having endorsed you, that's always going to help. And like connections that you have, for example, you onboarded 2 interns now, but if they're connected to Frank, it's going to be more interested for the prospect to see, hey, Frank is connected with them, I can connect them with them because if you have more than 40, if you have more than 40,000 followers on LinkedIn, you kind of have some say into who to connect with and who to not.
Makes sense, yeah. I totally agree with you because you do look at mutual connections.
Yeah, exactly.
I totally agree with you. Like if somebody is wondering what is a catchy, headline, feel free to go to my profile and have a look at the first line, what it says. As for a really good banner, I would say go to Yanis's profile on LinkedIn. You can see his LinkedIn profile URL on the left hand side. Do have a look at his banner, the way he has structured. Do have a look at the way he has structured his whole thing. Do also connect with him and say hi to him, right? So, and if you have any follow-up questions, because I know sometimes people are very shy when it comes to asking questions. I think so. Everything that you mentioned is correct, right? But when it comes to posts, for example, how do you approach with your customers or just generally with the teams that do not post? Even I'm struggling with my team to make them post because I know it's such a huge, let's call it, dilemma, right? So people even pay money these days internally to make their employees post because it has business value or commercial value. But when you work with folks out there, whatever all these 200 plus profiles that you're managing, how do you think about the posting kind of thing? How do you go about this?
Yeah, so we have most of it automated in terms of we have built custom tools for each of the clients and each of these avatar profiles, because we've split tested this. So a blank profile without any posts will absolutely not convert as good as an avatar profile with, let's say, 5 to 6 posts will. So we have internal tools built. So and additionally, we have a VA who kind of keeps track of this.
Yeah.
Because LinkedIn cracks down. These are like small variables for most of the folks out there. It's not gonna apply to, but we have tools that basically draft the posts, but we have a VA who rewrites it kind of manually because LinkedIn just doesn't like AI posts that much. And we've seen that with about 50 profiles, if we just post an AI written post on an avatar account, it gets flagged and basically deleted in the next few hours. So internal tools, internal reminders of, hey, you have to post at least every 2 days for each of these avatar accounts. Because what most of these providers, in terms of like renting LinkedIn accounts, they sometimes don't even give access to the profiles itself. Mirror Profiles does this, but other providers don't. So you have a limited amount of, say how good the avatar profile is going to perform. So that's a really important part in terms of outreach on LinkedIn with scale.
Makes sense. And then the other question I have for you, running, a tiny sales team with a lot of AI agents and everything, and booking 500 demos. How do you think about the thought process of, okay, you have this LinkedIn channel, right? And we're talking about LinkedIn specifically. But what are the other channels or the other things that you can do on top of email, on top of LinkedIn, right? Whether that's email or something else. Do you see that LinkedIn, you're like supercharging the conversion rate, let's say, on LinkedIn by having these other things in play?
Yeah, definitely. So how we structured most of our approaches is through Salesforce. We use multi-channel. So we start with a if condition. So let's say 50% of the list has an email, 50% doesn't have an email. So we start with an if condition, which essentially is if they have an email, they go through the whole multi-channel flow, which is 3 emails, 3 LinkedIn messages. But if they don't have, let's say, an email, it just goes through the LinkedIn part. But what happens is that a lot of people miss these emails, and we go in there with a connection request, they accept it, and we go in there with a Notion and say, hey, we sent you a couple emails in the last 2 weeks, etc. And then we kind of shorten the pitch, readdress it, kind of revisit the conversation and ask for a small CTA. And in most cases, the people say, hey, I kind of missed your email, didn't see it, I see it now. And LinkedIn actually is a layer on top of our conversion. So let's say email has a 3% reply rate in best case scenario at the moment. LinkedIn is probably adds about 15% extra per prospect. So it's a huge kind of uplift in conversion and actually booking demos. But after LinkedIn and email, I would say having a human step who actually calls prospects who've expressed interest is a really important aspect, because what happens is they say yes, but they don't book a meeting. You send them a couple emails, they don't respond, send them LinkedIn messages, they don't respond. But you having someone actually call them books meetings about 90% of the time. So
Gotcha.
Human step is still kind of important.
Okay. One thing I just want to drop down. Guys, so feel free to leave your questions. We're going to go over to your questions very shortly. Whoever follows the questions right now, we're going to go through your questions because we can't be able to answer all of them. But the one final thing I have in my mind, also when you, maybe a couple of things. One is who are the best people to do LinkedIn, for whom is LinkedIn the best, is first question. Who are the right businesses or people that should be doing LinkedIn and that should be doing maybe scaling is question one. And then the second question is on something totally different, which is signals, essentially. What do you think are the best signals that are working? Like, does de-anonymization work? Is it all about, extracting, it's all about, doing social listening, on LinkedIn, tools like Trigify, Jungler, whatever you name it. What from a signal standpoint, I will say, what do you think is best there? So yeah, these two questions before I shut up.
So in terms of signals, signals are nice. It depends also on what you're selling, but in terms of, who needs to do LinkedIn outreach, I would say everybody that's in B2B. I wouldn't discriminate and say, hey, you should do DMs or you shouldn't. Even if your TAM is really low, I would still send that LinkedIn DM, send that connection request, and reach out to as many of your key decision makers as you possibly can, because LinkedIn is the absolute best channel once you actually get scale into it, because it just, for us, it books about 60% of all meetings that we have here in Outbound Pro. So 40% is email, but we have, I would say, 150 mailboxes just for our outreach. But with a couple accounts, we book more meetings than we do with email. And in terms of signals, the problem is with signals that the most important signals that you want to be targeting are not public, which is, it's just kind of dilemma. Yeah, social listening definitely works, like I mentioned whilst I was yapping about the presentation. But also, if a lot of people are targeting the same signals, they would essentially reach out to them at the same time as you would. So it's still kind of a battle. So I think signals is on an upward trend, but we're not there yet. So we only because we have only a couple signals that we can target.
Yeah. I think I ran a poll very recently, not recently, sorry, it was a couple months ago or so, where I was asking what is the number one channel that has booked you the most meetings in 2025? And yeah, LinkedIn, out of all I have a lot of people, that I'm connected on LinkedIn, cold callers, the emailers, the LinkedIn people. And LinkedIn has won, actually, by far. LinkedIn has generated, seems like, across the majority of the population. I mean, it's also a bit, it's also a bit, it's good because, everybody that's responded, they're all on LinkedIn, right? So they're responding. I think there's a lot of people that are also not on LinkedIn and they're just cold calling that maybe didn't respond. But yeah, LinkedIn was definitely the winner. That's what we also seeing. LinkedIn also generates more than 50%, I would say, of the pipeline. I would say 40 to 50% for us, I would say. So definitely a lot. But scaling LinkedIn is also difficult. Like, everybody scales email because it's much easier to scale because you're doing domains, email accounts, you're kind of stacking those, right? So a lot of people are reaching out, and there's an email fatigue, right? So the email box are bombed. But guess what? Scaling LinkedIn is very, very difficult, right? So Yanis is just one of the few people in the world that knows that has actually cracked it. And because it's very, very hard to actually scale, this is why you don't see automation, or you don't see that much of a fatigue. Plus, there's naturally the other components that massively increase conversion rate, which is there's a face of a person, right? There's a profile, right? It's an extension of the landing page, right? And there's sort of this human to human thing, and it's a social media at the end, right? And it's not something you can replicate in Facebook or other channels, right? Because in those channels you get blocked very fast. So in LinkedIn, it still is possible to do for you to drum up massively demand. All right. So, and then the only final thing I want to mention is that on the signals, I think one thing that has worked for us also quite a fair bit is when actually people are actually active on LinkedIn. And I think on Sales Navigator, there's this sort of filter of people that have been active in the last 30 days. That filter is also pretty good. To imagine if you have a very, very large TAM, right? Maybe hundreds of thousands of businesses to reach out to people to reach out to LinkedIn, and you want to kind of narrow it down, right? So if you do list building, for example, and maybe the list is good, right? So one of the things I like to do, and other people like to do as well, with small and bigger TAMs, is like, okay, which are the people that were actually active in the last 30 days? Because they are naturally more likely to respond than the rest of the guys maybe that don't log into LinkedIn that often, right? So kind of think of like, what is some of the assumptions that you could do? But there's so many cool things you can do on LinkedIn, but the problem is, I think people are, not scaling predominantly, I think, is the biggest issue, which is why folks are not seeing humongous results. So guys, just for you to be aware, me on my own, I book over 100 meetings on LinkedIn alone every month. Yanis as well books over 100 meetings alone. We do a lot of volume. So, and this is very, very unusual numbers. This definitely puts us in the top 1% in terms of what we typically do. Now, on my end, I'm just a business. You're just one business. Yanis manages many businesses, and he is able to do that for a lot of folks. All right. So, any questions on the scaling, feel free to shoot them away. Now, one person is asking, okay, Frame, what is a good conversion rate you can expect from LinkedIn? Yanis, maybe you want to take this one. What do you say to people typically when somebody asks you this?
It also depends on a lot of variables, but I would say in terms of reply rates, anything above 12% is usually good. And again, if you're on your in terms of like total contacts uploaded, I would say 5% meeting booking ratio is really good. So those are kind of the two key metrics I would take into consideration.
Cool, awesome. Next one from Borna. But 1.5%, do you get when sending an open question that requires a deeper engagement by SDR or more aggressive ask by a specific solution? I think there was probably slide in your section. I think it has. Yeah, go ahead.
Again, it depends on the situation, but it works on both. It works on all three. If you even do rapport building, it's the same kind of metrics that you should be targeting.
Okay, cool. Next one. Why pitching in the connection node doesn't work?
Because it's too salesy. Even though you're trying to do sales and trying to essentially sell them something, it's still too salesy, and people can they go through their connection request and they see who they want to connect with and who they don't want to connect with. And if they see, hey, I want to sell you XYZ, they're not gonna connect. It's just, psychologically not going to happen.
True, because there's a sort of negative connotation that
Yeah.
you're trying to sell me something, right? So, like, think of it this way, guys. If you have, like, I don't know, let's say 10 people trying to connect with you, and if you see people that have no connection, essentially there's nothing, right? No connection node, right? Versus those people that have a connection node. Typically, the people with a connection node, they're always selling you something. So by default, you have subconsciously thinking to yourself, no, I'm not going to connect with people with a connection node because they're all trying to sell me something, right? So there's this negative connotation, right? So you want to keep it neutral, and if you want to kind of optimize towards a connection, like Yanis mentioned in his presentation, you optimize that profile, that headline, even the headshot. You have a professional headshot. Do you have, like, one of the things I even say, do you have like a big American smile, on your picture? Because even that can help you, because people are more inclined psychologically to connect with you because they just look at your picture, they look at that beautiful smile, and they want to connect with you, right? So good looks definitely sells. Yanis would probably say that also specific profiles sell better than others, right, Yanis? There's also specific type of profile.
Yeah.
perform better.
I'm gonna mention this, but ironically, women book most meetings for you. Women avatar accounts book the most meetings.
That's because probably there's fewer also sellers, I think, from statistically speaking, right? Most, I think, sellers, like, that I also think about sales teams that I used to work in, there's just a lot of dudes that's selling to a lot of other dudes, So the fact that even, a female is reaching out, is or pattern up by itself, right? So there's these factors you have to consider. What is a pattern interrupt? Who are you more likely to engage with? Are you good looking in a headshot? What does it say in your headline? All of these things psychologically matter. Now, somebody's just asking, how can I connect with you personally? Well, if you're going to connect with the handsome guy named Yanis, you can find him on LinkedIn. He's pretty handsome, and he's from Outbound Pros. All right, next one. How you approach commodity products? Yanis, that's to you.
Good question.
It's a tricky one. I just
It
booked a
is.
demo today. Maybe it's the same person. Somebody also booked in a demo with me 1 hour ago about commodity products. So, so let's see how you're going to answer this one.
Yeah, this is a tricky one. So I would
I would
say
say probably like maybe price matters a lot. Like, I think maybe in some segments there's price sensitivity, and maybe because sometimes you lead with price, right? So
yeah.
So for example, we have competitors.
Yeah, with
that just
commodity
lead with
products,
price.
like we had this one client that basically it was a commodity product, and what we did is the complete opposite of what I actually mentioned in the presentation. So we went against absolutely everything that I kind of believe in, because they said, "Hey, listen to me. I know what to do. I know how these prospects kind of operate." And we went the complete opposite route. We added a bunch of pictures, like outlined everything about the service, about the product, and that converted so good. I was completely surprised, and I even did a post last month, and I was saying, like, some of my beliefs in cold outbound have been shattered because of this one client.
Yeah, the other thing I think about, if you're selling commodity product, like, what can you do on top of the commodity that you're selling? It could be like this sort of, it could be something that you're packaging like a free service on top of the commodity, right? They're gonna get something on top of buying that commodity. It's like this sort of carrot, like, hey, you might, would you be up for buying my stuff? I know that everybody else sells the same thing, but if you're gonna buy it from me, here's this little thing that I'm gonna do on top of it, right? So,
In terms
I think
of also in commodity products, it's called outbound itself is a really good way of selling them, because not a lot of these people are actually on LinkedIn and actually really in depth in outreach. So if you're just doing it, it's just you don't even have to complicate it. It's gonna convert.
Yeah. Alrighty. Next question. Do sender profiles really matter? You have different names for your emails than for your LinkedIn profiles. Very good question.
Yes and no. Depends on the situation. So sometimes we have only one sender profile on email. So let's say John Doe on email, but we can add multiple LinkedIn accounts to that same sender and say, hey, John sent you about, let's say, 2 emails last week. Did you get a chance to review them? With the subject line, so they can go ahead, copy the subject line, go into email, and actually look for the email and actually understand what we're talking about. So it depends and it doesn't depend. It really, I think it's based on the
So,
situation.
so for what we do, we have over 40 profiles, nearly 50 now, actually, email infrastructure, LinkedIn infrastructure, and about 400 mailboxes just, associated to that. We have we have different names to the LinkedIn profile. So I'm a believer that if 2 people from our company are reaching out, right? So one mailbox with one name, let's say Frank, reaching out, then I'm using Yanis's, for example, LinkedIn profile. We're both reaching out to the same person across 2 different channels. My belief, it has better impact than having the same name, because sometimes people have a negative reaction to the name. Let's say you are coming from a specific part of the world, or female versus male, whatever. All of these kind of things, variables that you have to kind of take into account. But if you have 2 different people reaching out, I think statistically, if I would scale it up and do an A/B test, I think it has a better impact overall than having the same name on the email and then on LinkedIn. But definitely there's also strategies where you have to do that. Let's say you're somebody maybe famous or whatever that is, right? Maybe that would be an example where you want to keep it the same. So it just depends on, I think, on the case. But yeah, all right, let's move on to the next one. Short voice messages in the native language. I guess that's a yes. Just generally for voice.
Yeah, it's a yes, but voice notes are kind of I
What do you
don't
think about voice
think
notes?
for most C-level executives, depends of course on who you're reaching out to. I think it's just not polite in some cases to send voice notes because some of these people are, let's say, are super busy, etc.
Yes,
They want to read it and they don't want to listen to your voice note.
exactly.
So
That's how I think about it. I
yeah,
think about the same thing. Like, let's say, there was even a post, like it was trending like massively, which is like, how dare you sending me a voice note?
yeah,
Now I have to listen to you. I have to read, like, so I think just A/B test it. I think it still works, but I think it can get saturated. But like, yes, imagine you're reaching out to very busy people like me, Yanis, and you're sending me a voice note of a minute. Now I have to think about them. I have to find 50 seconds or to a minute just to listen to your voice note. And I don't even know if it's good. Like, instead, it's much easier for me to consume that content through a text, actually, not through a voice. Like, sure, it's a pattern interrupt, but yeah, I think overall, like with busy people, it's a text. With
it's
not
the
busy,
same. It's the same with videos. Like the
yeah,
reason I don't like these videos, especially the ones that are
mhm.
selfie style recorded, like, and you see on the bottom it's 60 seconds or 58 seconds. Like I don't see that many people actually viewing the whole video. It's just
Yeah.
easier to package it in a short message and send it.
Less is more. Less is more.
Yeah,
Important people don't do long stuff. Salespeople write long messages. Do very long videos and
that's why
everything.
pitch slapping works. You just lay it out how it is and move
Yeah,
on.
sure. That's why I like to ask on LinkedIn, hey, like, do you do something like, hey, do you have a problem with email deliverability? Hey, are you currently using any LinkedIn outreach tools? Hey, and that's it, like short and snappy.
Yeah,
Like, just think of what a CEO would do. Just to give you an idea, guys, I have 20 meetings a day on average every day. 20 meetings. So I'm a very busy guy. So do you think I will write up a long ass email and send it to Yanis? No, I will write something like, yo, let's do a webinar together. Are you up for it on this date? And that's all I'm gonna write, right? So, like, important people speak like important people, and everything is short and snappy. Even the subject lines is typically, let's say, on email, like it's couple really words there. That's all it is. So less is more. Less is more what drives truly impact, because yeah, if it's long, like a LinkedIn DM or anything else is long, typically you're selling, right? And people just have look at that negatively. So, right, here we go. We got a last one from Borna. How niche should we go per persona? We target multiple industries and of course multiple personas inside those companies. Or a better question, what's the minimum list size you would do in a sequence for?
I think going as niche as possible is best. Again, it comes down to relevance. So if you can make the pitch as relevant as possible for that sub niche
of your TAM, it's just going to convert as best as possible. And in terms of like minimal list size, I don't believe in it, because of course then if you have to send about, I would say, 1,500 messages before you can actually make an assumption whether or not a specific formula works. But if you can reword it and make it relevant for really small lists, and we've run lists of 70 prospects even and gotten 25% reply rate, etc. So it just depends on what stage you're in terms of outbound. If you have a good understanding of what needs to be portrayed in your message, then you can go ahead and send small volumes as well.
Cool. One question that we have there is like, how many connections do you need to have on the profile before you even start doing any form of sequencing?
I would say 150 or so, because anything lower than that is quite risky. Also depends on the age of the account. You could have 150 connections, but the account could be 3 months old. You're not going to scale that LinkedIn profile that much. So if I had to choose, let's say between an 8-year-old account and 70 connections or a 3-month-old account and 150 connections, I would go with the lower connection amount and the older account, because it's just more reputable.
And what do you think about verification then on the account?
No, I mean it's a nice to have if you have verification,
Yeah.
but with avatars you're not going to get it.
Yeah, of course. I'm not even verified, right?
Yeah.
So,
I mean, you have 40K followers, so you don't need to be verified.
I mean, my profile is 15 years old, just to give you guys. I'm pretty old in that sense. I'm feeling like a dinosaur on LinkedIn. Yes, I haven't scaled to like 100K, but I'm not trying to scale my followers. I think one of the things just to kind of be mindful of, right, as you're scaling your follower base, like connecting with ICPs is very important, and try not to connect with your ICPs, because that will dilute your network. Just think about network quality in LinkedIn, just one of the tips, because as you're building your presence and everything, like who do you connect with, it's very important. I just actually removed over nearly 2,000, I think, connections on LinkedIn, because I reached my 30K cap in terms of who I'm connected with. So there are tools in the market like the Delta, Lead Delta, I think, that can programmatically disconnect people. But yeah, disconnecting non-ICPs from your network, very important. It's not a problem in the early days, but you'll see that once you're going to grow and kind of for your algorithm and everything, you want to have ICPs around you, because that will also help you. Awesome. And then a fun fact, guys, how do we get over 1,000 people on this webinar? Again, this is part of the horizontal kind of scaling concept. When you have multiple profiles, you can invite up to 1,000 people into a LinkedIn webinar. If you're wondering how does this growth hack actually work, feel free to ping Yanis. Yanis knows exactly how it works, and that's exactly how he has scaled up, getting 1,000 people registering. A lot of people are not on this webinar as well because they want to watch the recording, right? But if you want to figure out, okay, how do I do a similar webinar to this? Well, you can do this through the horizontal scaling concept, because Yanis has like gazillions of profiles. I have 40 profiles, right? We can connect actually a lot of people. So yeah, the limitation is like 1,000 people per week that you can connect per profile. So yeah, that's how it works. But if you want to figure it out, Yanis has the answer for you, so you can ping him on that. Hopefully this was useful. Yanis, how can people find you?
You can just find me on LinkedIn, right, Yanis Spulma, and just connect with me and let me know if you want that free GTM audit whilst the offer is on the table. But yeah, ping me.
How long does it last, you say, the offer?
I would say 2 days. Let's say today
2
and
days.
tomorrow. Connect with me. I'll build it out for you. And
As it's free of charge. Typically
Yep.
costs about $1,000, $2,000 just to do that one. But with this one, so feel free to ping him. Hopefully not too many people will ping you as well at the same time. So yeah,
we'll see.
First come, first serve, by the way, on this. Just letting you know, everybody, guys. Awesome. Appreciate Yanis jumping aboard here and fixing your Wi-Fi as well, right? That was good having you.
Device problems and
handsome face as well, but it's fine. You can. I bet, guys, you can connect with him over Zoom or whatever if you're looking to do something with him in the future. Otherwise, if you want to learn anything about infrastructure or sending, whatever, tooling, whatever, feel free to ping me as well. But Yanis is the guy. He actually handles gazillions of customers, so he has a lot more context in terms of how things actually work under the hood. So feel free to ping him. Otherwise, thanks so much, guys, and keep in touch. Cheerio.
Yep. Thank you guys so much. See ya.